Dear students, in today's lecture we will have a bit introduction about the process of evolution, what actually evolution is. Evolution is basically the process by which species adapt over time in response to their changing environment. If there is any change in the environment, that could be positive or that could be negative, then the species in that certain particular environment, they have the ability to adapt over time to that changing environment, and this is basically known as the evolution. First of all, before going into detail about the evolution, first of all we'll try to discuss the origin and nature of life. The origin of life on earth began almost 3 billion years ago. That has evolved from the basic microbes into dazzling array of complexity with the passage of time. Science remain undecided and may have conflicts about the exact origin of life. Also, some scientists believe on the process of abiogenesis, that is the synthesis of living things from the non-living things. Though scientists remain undecided and conflicted as the exact origin of life, and also, as I have discussed, that they believe on the process of abiogenesis, though scientists still seems unsure about the origin and nature of the life, here are some different theories on the origin of life on Earth. First theory is some scientists believe in that life started with an electric spark. Lightning may have provided the spark which was needed before for the origin of life. How it has provided? Because spark can generate amino acids and sugars from the atmosphere, which was previously understood that pre-atmosphere was loaded with water, methane, ammonia and hydrogen, and these were responsible for the formation of amino acids and sugars. Lightning may have helped create the key building blocks of life on Earth in its early days. And over of millions of years, larger and more complex molecules could form, and they then concentrated, and then they reacted with each other, and they helped in the formation of or in the origin of life on Earth. Although no researchers believe that atmosphere of Earth was actually hydrogen poor, scientists have suggested that volcanic clouds in the early atmosphere might have held methane, ammonia and hydrogen and been filled with lightning as well. This was the first theory. Second theory about origin of life is that molecules of life met on the clay. The first molecule of life might have met on clay according to an idea which was elaborated by Alexander Graham Smith at the University of Glasgow in Scotland, and he proposed in his controversial book, which was basically controversial, 7 Clues to the Origin of Life, that clay crystals preserve their structures as they grow and stick together to form the areas exposed to different environment, and trap other molecules in the way and organize them into a pattern much like to the gene in our body, which nowadays do. And he suggested that mineral crystals in clay could have arranged the organic molecules into organized patterns, and after a while these organic molecules took over the job and organized themselves. This is the second theory about the origin of life on Earth. Although Cransmith theory certainly gave scientists food for thought in the 1980s, but still it was not widely accepted by the scientists. Next theory is life began at the deep sea vents. This theory suggests that life may have begun at submarine hydrothermal vents. These hydrothermal vents can be found in the darkest depth of the ocean floors, typically on the diverging continental plates, and these vents basically erupted the fluids which was superheated and then passes through the crust, and before when it is passing through the crust, that it collects the dissolved gases and minerals such as carbon and hydrogen, and these rocky nukes concentrated these molecules together and provided the way to the origin of life. Next next belief is that life had a chilly start. Ice might have covered over the oceans 3 billion years ago and facilitated the birth of life. Key organic compounds which are important for the life might have originated in these icy age, and they are more stable at low temperature. At low temperature, these compounds such as amino acids can sparsely populated in water, but if there is frozen conditions, then they become concentrated and have facilitated the emergence of life. So this is also another theory about the origin of life. Next theory is that the answer lies in understanding the DNA formation. Nowadays we also know that DNA is needed for the synthesis of proteins, and proteins are needed for the synthesis of DNA. Then how could these formed without each other? The answer may be in the RNA, that which can store informations like DNA and can also serve as enzyme. Later, DNA and protein succeeded this RNA world because they are more efficient. RNA still exists and performs several functions in the organisms, but as DNA is more precise and more accurate in its function, so DNA basically took over the charge of the RNA world. Next is the belief is that life had simple beginnings. Instead of developing from the complex molecules such as RNA, life might have started from the smaller molecules which were interacting with each other in the cycle of reactions. And these might have contained in simple capsules like achenes to cell membranes, and over time more complex molecules are formed, and then the scenario this has basically scenario dubbed the metabolism first instead of RNA world hypothesis. Another view is that life was brought from somewhere else in the space. Perhaps life did not begin on Earth at all, but it was brought from somewhere else in the space, which is a notion which is known as the panspermia. There are three population popular variations in panspermia hypothesis. First is the lithopanspermia, that impacts the expelled rocks from the planet's surface and which serve as a vehicle for spreading biological materials. Ballistic panspermia is another variation according to which impact the expelled rocks from the planet's surface and serve as transfer vehicle for spreading the biological materials from one planet to another planet. And the third one is the direct panspermia. According to this, there's international spreading of the seeds of life on two other planets by the advanced extraterrestrial civilization. Though panspermia does not provide any explanation for the evolution of life, but attempts to pinpoint to the origin of life in the universe. Another theory is about the spontaneous origin, that life may have evolved from the non-living matter as association with the prebiotic molecules under primitive earth conditions, and then they become more and more complex. This theory basically suggests that life could come from the non-living things according to the abiogenesis theory. Though that theory, to prove this theory, a scientist, Francisco Redi, in 1668 tested the spontaneous creation of maggots by placing fresh meat in 3 different jars. Here is Redi's experiment, and he tried to prove that if that spontaneous origin theory is correct or not, and according to his experiment that theory was not correct. And after Redi's experiment, Louis Pasteur also did an experiment, and he used the killed yeast and in sterilized jars and tried to prove the spontaneous generation theory, but his experiment also disproved the theory of spontaneous generation. Next theory is about the special creation, that life formation on earth may have been taken place due to the supernatural or some divine forces. and there are different kinds of accreditations by their different religions. And according to the Hindu concept, the whole world is created by the Lord Brahma, while according to Christians and Islamic concept, God has created the universe and human beings, plants, oceans and rivers in 6 days. So this is another theory. Thank you.